What's the creepiest thing you've come across on Reddit? I can't find it anywhere. But does anyone remember something where there was a girl by herself at home? She was talking to her friend on the phone while laying on her bed. She then dropped her phone, and when she was picking it up, she saw a reflection of a face underneath the bed. She proceeded to talk to her friend and calmly say she was going to have a shower and hung up the call. She ran into the bathroom, locked the door, and jumped out of the window. She called the cops. Later they arrived and arrested a man who was standing right outside that door holding a knife. This really freaks me out to this day. There was an article on it too. I can't for the life of me find his post, and I don't remember the parent thread, but I really hope someone answers me and knows what I'm talking about. Basically, a Redditor was answering the thread a lot like this one, like, what's the creepiest thing that's ever happened to you, etc. He wrote about a time where he was in Africa on some humanitarian trip, and it was nighttime and they were standing around their jeep in some remote village. All of a sudden, their guide, an older South African guy, says, "Get in the car." They're like, "What?" And he says, "Get in the car now." So they all jump in the jeep. Seconds later, a naked, bloody African woman comes tearing out of the underbrush and slams into the jeep, starts banging on the windows like she wants to kill them. The guide floors it in reverse and they get out of there, watching the woman creepily fade in the dusty red light behind them. She mentions that they told the local cops about it and apparently they went to check it out, but they never heard anything about it again. Super creepy. Remember reading about a guy who was with his girlfriend and her family around a bonfire. They were getting drunk and one of her brothers says how he likes taking pop shots at hikers on the trail. They just got back from hunting and all had rifles. Then another one said how he saw a lady hiking, so he followed her, found her camp, raped her, made her write a suicide note, then he killed her. Now that's pretty fucked by itself. What makes it worse though is a commenter said how there's an unsolved death of a woman on that same trail, who had a small camp, was alone and killed herself. No one found the camp for a few years, but they knew she went missing. Remember reading the article they linked, and fucking hell, it's eerie. This post where a guy in Hawaii has a neighbor with a weird blue hut on his property and there are about 30 Wi-Fi networks coming from nearby. He explores, find out all the Wi-Fi signals are coming from underground, under a concrete slab. Wi-Fi SSIDs change names every 30 minutes, all password protected. Finds multiple electrical breaker boxes on the blue hut with wires running towards the concrete slab. Doxes the neighbor. Turns out he has an eBay account and the only thing this eBay account sells is broken hard drives. All the feedback for the bad hard drives are glowing, like over the top, code words and shit. Such as, "very happy kids," and, "no fakes." Suspects he stumbled across a CP ring. I'm going to post this in hopes someone remembers and can reference the post I'm referring to. This is one of the scariest things I've read and seen on Reddit, and I hope the op is okay. Have not seen Reddit updates, but if I remember correctly, it was a front page post. There was a woman who lived at home in an apartment building and would get random knocks on her door. There would be banging and screaming while she was inside alone. I think her husband was a doctor and had odd hours, and this only happened when he was away. She was able to take a really poor quality photo of him out her window, and you can see him facing and looking into her apartment. Redditors were suggesting he was doing this to essentially torture her, and warned that it might escalate to something much more dangerous. Obviously he was stalking her because he knew when she'd be alone. Ever since I read her post, I have been terrified to answer the door. I think about her constantly and really hope she's okay. If anyone remembers this post, please share. There was one girl in r/let's not meet who said she worked at a bar, I think in Australia, and one customer really liked her and was creepy, and after a while was kicked out by whatever the guards are called. She said after that, when she went out to leave her shift, the guy somehow figured out her car and sat on it. She got the guard, I think, and the guy was taken away. This stuff goes on for a few nights or weeks, can't remember, it was a few months ago. She then one time left to go to work and she forgot something, so she headed back home and he was standing in the hallway saying, "Hello honey." Cops were called and apparently he'd been living in her crawl space for weeks or months. She said she then moved states after that. I'm also Australian and got freaked out reading it because that stuff rarely happens here or isn't covered often. Not sure if this was from Reddit, but it's a story that always got me. The girl tells how she was walking home one day and when she gets home she sees her mom coming out of the front door and her mom looks past her and says, "Who the hell are you?" And the narrator says how she turned around and saw a man turning away and walking back down the street. Her mom had come home sick from work, and if she hadn't been there then who knew what would have happened. That always gets me. Somebody came posting the legal advice, claiming that she had been raped and wanted to know what to do from there. Except they hadn't bothered making an alt account, so posters there quickly sussed out from their post history that he was an incel, and he was actually looking for advice on how to get away with it. That and another post where one of them fantasized about maiming his roommate were the final straws for Reddit to finally ban their original sub. Wasn't on here, but I was looking for reaction meme images for Twitter and people told me 4chan had good threads for memes, and I went on and found some funny threads, but then, I scrolled down and stopped at one thread that scared the ever-living shit out of me. The OP had posted a photo of me, just a selfie of me, and asked people to tell him what they do to me. Seeing the replies of some fucked up shit scared me for life. I still remember what they said in the photo he used. It was anonymous, so I DK who it was, and I still don't know. But what I do know is that he never stopped uploading different photos of me, and when I tried to investigate, each photo would have my name and a number next to it. The highest number I saw said 114. This motherfucker had 114 plus saved photos of me to share on 4chan. Haven't had anyone tell me about seeing me on there lately, so I think it stopped, but it still creeps me out. Read this one about a month ago, but I cannot seem to find it at the moment. This guy talks about how one day he was leaving class and he was standing in a guy's parking place in college. The guy went crazy about it and punched him in the face. He fell and hit his head, and what he talks about next freaks me out. He said he woke up and went about his life. Ended up meeting this wonderful woman and they had a son. This went on for a few years until one day he noticed this lamp just seemed out of place. It bothered him to no end. Something about the lamp being square when it should have been a different size. He would sit in front of this lamp for hours and hours. Finally his wife got fed up with it and being scared of his change of attitude took their son and went to her mom's. As he was staring at the lamp one day, it started to change and the world around him started to change. He woke up on the road with an EMT over him. His head was pretty bloody and he had a possible concussion. Turns out it was all in his head while he was unconscious. He lived many years in a different life in those few moments. He said it haunts him constantly and he is in counseling for it. This freaks me out. I googled how this would be possible and apparently the brain can do some insane things when it takes an injury or thinks you are close to death. I felt so bad for this guy. Many years ago, I'd say I was around 9 or 10, I was on the computer watching old YouTubers messing around on Reddit. I didn't know what Reddit was, and being the rebellious child I ignored all warnings saying to get parental consent before going on the site if under the age of 13. I was just scrolling, don't even think I was on a thread, can't remember what I was looking for. Probably conspiracy theories or something like that. And then I saw a post which said it had just been uploaded, as in a matter of seconds or minutes ago. I started reading it, and it scared the shit out of me. The post said something along the lines of, "You don't know me, and I don't know you. All you need to know about me is last night, I murdered someone." The post went on to tell details about the user taking an ice pick and murdering someone, and that he'd hidden the body where he knew no one would find it. He then said, "And I know that this post will be removed within minutes of me posting, but if you were reading it, just look in the news tomorrow and search for any murder focusing on a victim stabbed with an ice pick." It was a very calm, maturely written post, which made me even more scared as it didn't scream, "Kid pulling a sick joke." I remember being genuinely scared, and refreshed the page. The post was indeed gone, and I frantically searched on the forums for any trace of it, but it really had been deleted. Looking back, it was probably a creepypasta post that had been copy and pasted to scare little kids like me, but the fact it really had been deleted like he had said in the post had me thinking I was going to be stabbed with an ice pick for months. Edit. To everyone asking if the post is possibly about the 2012 Luca Magnotta murder, the truth is I have no idea. All I can tell you is that 2012 is indeed around the time I read the post. 7 years ago I was exactly 10 years old. I wish I remembered more about the post, but I do have a terrible fear the poster did actually say he was Canadian. Thanks Reddit, never sleeping again. Carl H. teaches programming. Redditor that dedicated a huge amount of time creating and maintaining a subreddit to teach people programming. He's articulate, super nice, positive. Only he wasn't. He was a piece of shit who was raping his kid with his partner on the regular. He killed himself in prison. Legitimately fucked me up. I was refreshing his website like once a week and wondering why he wasn't putting up new videos. Eventually I decided to do an internet search to see if anyone knew why he wasn't posting anymore. I've never been so shocked. Not like I knew the guy, but when you watch that many videos that's just a guy talking you kinda feel like you know him. And holy shit. There was a super creepy one. I think it was on art relationship advice about a girl who thought her doctor boyfriend was drugging and raping her. She had been dating this guy for a while and was thinking of breaking up with him, but regularly was losing her memory, sometimes for days on end, and usually when she would become aware again she would be in her boyfriend's house. She said she thought she had broken up with him and he was maybe drugging her, with some drug he might have access to through his work, and raping her. This tied in nicely with needle marks she had on her thighs too, and she knew from how her body felt that they had definitely had sex. She would leave and go back home confused, only for the whole thing to repeat over again. Sometimes she would wake up in her own home with cum stains on her chest, and she thought he was breaking into her house and coming on her. She gave multiple accounts of both of these happening. The only thing that didn't add up was one of the times she became aware she was sitting in a restaurant with him and both of their cars were outside. She said it didn't make sense that he would pick her up, drop her at the restaurant, then go back 20 minutes to her house in a taxi and come back in her car. Some commenter noted that her symptoms were indicative of a really rare bedbug allergy, and when she checked, her bedroom was infested. The needle marks were bite marks, and the cum stains are a secretion that they give off. The memory loss is due to a swelling on the brain due to a severe allergic reaction. Edit. Many people have said that the post was updated by a moderator to add that a proven doctor had gotten in contact and said bed bugs are not known to cause this kind of behavior. I was the only manager of a decent-sized 2-story bar, and on a Friday and Saturday I wouldn't be leaving work till well after 5 a.m. Once we close, all the security got sent home and all the bar staff clean the bar and do their little bits and pieces. I would help then take all the money upstairs, locking up behind me as I went. Once all the staff finished their knockoff drinks and headed home, I locked myself in and started counting cash, writing reports, attending my emails, etc. Well, on the wall of my office is a huge TV with live video feed of all the cameras in the venue, which included 3 for the car park. About an hour into my counting, I noticed a dude walk into the car park. Not unusual. It's very dark and it's a good spot to take a leak, except this dude didn't leave. He washed my car, tested the door handles, looked straight into the window of my office and waved at me. He then proceeded to sit on the hood of my car and stare at me. At this stage, one closed my damn blinds and called the police. They took forever to come clear him out. Turns out he had several large knives on him and warrants for his arrest. Without those cameras I would have been screwed. Stay safe, people, there's creepers lurking everywhere. For me, it's usually the real life, everyday seeming people who do awful things but are so far out of touch with reality that they think they're normal. One being that dude who literally stalked that IGN reporter woman. He made constant posts in r/legal advice or something asking if he could sue her to unblock him. When people brought up that he was a nutbar and belonged in jail or counseling, he repeatedly defended himself by saying they were in love and if she could just meet him she would see, etc. Like all the classic stalker reasoning. He absolutely refused to see anyone else's logic and was clearly mentally ill but not willing or able to see how badly he needed help, and this poor woman was caught in the middle of it for no real reason other than he saw some article she had written. The other one was the legal advice post from the dude who basically trapped and assaulted a girl in his home and was asking how he could get out of the charges she was pressing against him. Only, he told the story the way a sociopath trying to get sympathy would, but the glimmers of what really happened were easily recognizable in the post. She came in, he locked the door, and she was nervously on her phone. He made a move, she said no, he took her phone away. He then made a move again and eventually she relented. Then he went to take a shower, and when he got back he found that she had bolted out the door and gone to police, and he couldn't figure out why. And in his words, it was a dating ad, so why would she respond to a dating ad and come to my house if she didn't mean it? Classic no equals yes defense. There are some nasty people on this website. If it's an obvious throwaway or whatever, it's easy to justify some of them as trolls. It's the ones who you can tell are actual deluded people that are willingly breaking the law but think they're right that are really scary, because it's entirely possible that person is your coworker or a friend of a friend, etc. There's a post that popped up earlier this year by an 18-year-old kid who grew up in a nudist, possibly abusive household, where he's watched his parents have orgies and has been exposed to porn since he was very young. Now he's basically naked most of the time and spends a majority of his day masturbating to porn. He kept insisting he grew up fine, but if you looked at his post history, it was apparent he was interested in adopting kids and raising them in the same lifestyle, exposing them to sex at an early age. A lot of people were calling him out on this. I came back to Reddit a couple hours later and couldn't find the post or the user anywhere or any mention of him. I have no idea what happened, but I hope he gets the help he needs. I believe it was a post from r/watch people die. It was a GIF from a security cam of a mom and her son going up an escalator. As they were getting to the top, the escalator started coming apart and collapsing. So as this is happening, the mother throws her son to safety on the platform above but then falls into the gears of the escalator. As she is swallowed up and crushed by the gears, her son watched her disappear and die. That one fucked me up for a while. This story on r/let's not meet. OP and her husband would hook the dog to a leash in the backyard to use the bathroom if it was late or they didn't have time to take him for a walk. She was home alone, late, and put the dog out. After a bit she heard a scratch at the door, the dog's usual signal that he was ready to come in. Except she looked through the peephole and there was a man out there, who had cut the leash and was pretending to be the dog by scratching at the door. I've read a lot of creepy shit on Reddit, but this one really stuck with me. I'm on a true crime subreddit. A few years ago a user on a new account posted some extremely graphic pictures, claiming that they had killed and were going to kill again. Reverse image search. 0 results. I forwarded it to the admins at once and advised they contact the authorities immediately. I hope they did something. I had a run-in with a guy who didn't like my nerdy white guy self-deprecating joke. He insisted that I stop bad-mouthing my own race, because what hurts one of us, hurts all of us. I kept the jokes rolling in. I was having a blast. An hour later, he messaged me the name of my city, my wife's name, her work address, her morning routine, and he threatened to run her over with his car. I'm now much more careful about my information online. The one that sticks out in my mind is of the guy who was house-sitting for his parents. I could have some of the details wrong, but he was basically uploading videos to Snapchat or something of the like. At one point he heard a noise, so he got up to check it out. He was going through the house with his camera on, and while he didn't notice it, people who watched the video pointed out that there was a guy hiding in the shadows. No one got hurt, but it was pretty damn creepy and I still think about it sometimes. There are 2 particular stories on r/Let's Not Meet that were particularly frightening. One was of a woman who went out to check her mail, and when she got back a man was hiding under bed with a knife. I think she ended up going into the bathroom and calling the police. Another was a woman who stopped to get gas at a gas station. A group of guys eyed her up and when she drove off, they began to follow her in their vehicle. Ultimately she drove to her brother's house who was military or ex-military I think, who greeted them by firing several rounds into the air when they arrived at his house. I can't find the links to either story but they were both particularly harrowing reads. Edit. The second one reminds me of a r/Let's Not Meet story I read about a woman who went to a rundown motel and found the room so dirty that she went to sleep in her car instead. Then from the car she witnessed the guy behind the desk and several other men making their way to her room with a spare key. It turns out that the motel had closed down a few years prior. I think it was a post on r/relationship advice where this girl walked in on her boyfriend masturbating and he acted really weird about it and hid his phone. So later out of curiosity she looked through his phone and not only did she find naked photos of herself while she was asleep, she also found child porn. There was also another post on one of the revenge subs where OP hated his coworker but his girlfriend at the time started acting all buddy-buddy with the coworker's girlfriend and one night invited them to hang out and go to a concert. But the coworker got so drunk they left him so the other 3 go to the concert. After the concert they go back to OP's place and the girlfriend initiates sex in the dark but suddenly OP hears a moan and it's not his girlfriend on top of him. So basically it was OP's girlfriend's plan to get a pic of the coworker's girlfriend cheating but technically she just set up her boyfriend to get raped. Like everyone in the comments were saying he got raped, which is true because he didn't consent to having sex with someone other than his girlfriend. Reading both posts just left me feeling so heavy-hearted and sick. It'll take some serious searching to find either of these, but the first one was an AMA of a kid who had escaped some sort of crazy fucking cult. Dude was answering questions for who knows how long, saying that the members were probably still searching for him. Then the account went silent for a while, and the next post was him asking in some sort of tech support subreddit how to erase his posting history. Last post was literally something along the lines of, I changed my mind. I'm going back. I'm okay. And then that was it. The second was the story of a guy who had a girlfriend who was really depressed and sad all of the time. Except one day she started waking up before him. I think he called that personality, early riser, who was way more cheerful and was hypersexual. Like she'd pounce on him first thing in the morning and they would have amazing sex. However, sometimes she'd snap out of it for some reason, and the original personality would come out and wouldn't understand why she was suddenly having sex. He figured out that brushing the early riser's hair back over her ear would trigger the original personality out. He was torn between the happy-go-lucky version and the version he thought was real. One day he went to do the behind-the-ear touch and the early riser grabbed his hand and says, "Please don't, I hate it when you make me go away." It was so goddamn sad, creepy. Like which one was the real girl? If you guys like this video, please drop a like and subscribe and also check out my Instagram account Scary Time that is linked in the description and as always stay scary.